welcome to Vanished Voices. We're your hosts. I'm Jenna.
And I'm Shannon.
It's January in Nebraska. It's cold. And I'm not talking about the kind of cold where you just throw a jacket on and deal with it. It's the kind of cold that hurts, the kind where the wind cuts through everything. The ground is frozen solid, and you can see your breath before you even step outside.
Yeah, that's like when you're wearing a jacket, it doesn't even matter.
No, you're like, is this doing anything? In this cold, imagine a cornfield on a reservation. Again, middle of winter, so nothing is growing. It's just flat, open, frozen land as far as you can see. And in that field, a young woman is lying there. She's 29 years old. She's a mom. She's not wearing anything. Her sister is the one who finds her. When she does, she takes her own coat off, lays it over her sister's body, and starts calling for help. In that moment, that image is where this story really begins. Because what happened next, or more accurately, what didn't happen next, is something I think everyone needs to hear. The official report says this young woman wandered off and died from the cold. Case closed, an accident. But her family, they'd been calling the police for years, begging someone, anyone, to intervene before something exactly like this happened. And nobody listened. This is the story of Ashlea Aldrich.
So let me guess. This is going to be another one of those where the hypothermia took over and so they strip naked and then die.
Yep.
Yeah. I know that's been documented more than once, but
I mean,
which is fine when it's first time happening, but when there's clearly police intervention, I'm going to call BS.
Just wait. Just wait till you hear these details. And it makes me just, and everything I try to look up, yes, everything I try to search for, they're not disclosing, they're not sharing, but case closed.
Well, yeah, because if it's an accident, there's no resources being provided.
Yep.
And oh, wow.
Yeah. So before we get into everything that went wrong, let's talk about who Ashlea was. She was a member of the Omaha Tribe of Nebraska. She grew up in Macy. If you've never heard of Macy, it's a small town with between 600 to 700 people. Macy sits right in the heart of the Omaha Reservation in the northeastern corner of the state.
So Macy is reservation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And when we talk about small towns, we like to say everybody knows everybody, and this is absolutely true here. The tribe isn't just your heritage, it's your whole community. It's your neighbors, your school, your workplace, everyone is connected. And actually, for Macy, somewhere between 93 to 98% of the residents that live there identify as American Indian or Alaska Native. Primarily, they're enrolled members in the Umatilla or the Omaha Tribe. Ashlea was part of that fabric. She worked for the tribe at one point. People who knew her described her as sweet, kind. She was the kind of person who had a warm, welcoming attitude. Her mom, whose name is Tilly, said of Ashlea, she was so loving and caring. She always saw the bright side of everything. She was a laid-back person, always giving, and so forgiving. Ashlea was a graduate of Omaha Nation Public School in Macy. She earned her certificate in cosmetology. Heartbreakingly, though, she finished cosmetology school and never even got to use her degree.
Oh, because she just graduated?
She just finished. And that detail, someone who put in the work, got certified, and then never got to build that career she trained for, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Ashlea was creative. She loved doing hair and makeup. And more than anything, she was a mom. She had 2 little boys, and those kids were her world. Her parents, so Galen is her dad and Tilly is her mom, were also very active in this community. This whole family that she came from was rooted in the reservation, in their tribe, and of course, they loved their daughter fiercely. Now, at some point, Ashlea reconnected with a guy she had dated back in high school. And through all of the research and everything that I've read, it seems like his name has never been put out. So we're just going to refer to him as the boyfriend through this episode.
Interesting. Okay. Is he the father of any of the kids?
Both of them.
Okay.
Yeah. Like a lot of relationships that pick up from when you were young, it probably felt familiar, comfortable. They got together and they started building a life, and they had those 2 boys. Somewhere along the way, things changed. Or maybe, and this is something I think a lot of people who've experienced or watched someone go through it will understand, maybe the signs were there early and they just got worse over time. Because this relationship, it wasn't what it looked like from the outside, and Ashley's family knew it. They had known it for years.
Is this one of those also where mom really wants to make things work with the father of her children?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know how old her boys were, but both are described as 2 young boys.
Yeah.
Like Shannon kind of mentioned, this is the point where our story gets heavy. This part is hard to talk about, but it is important because what happened to Ashley didn't happen in a vacuum. There were warnings, there were lots of them. Ashley's family had started seeing things that scared them. They noticed bruises, changes in Ashley's behavior, the kind of things that make a parent's stomach drop. And they didn't stay quiet about it. They called tribal police. And not once, not twice. We're talking dozens of calls over the years reporting that Ashley's boyfriend was hurting her.
So did they go investigate? It probably comes down to the whole she probably wasn't pressing charges, but I mean, were they actively listening? Were they going to investigate the calls?
It doesn't seem like it.
Oh, God.
I know they did for one, and I will tell you about that one in a second. But can you imagine making dozens of calls,
No.
hoping that one of these times they're actually going to do something
Yeah.
and they just don't? It's like you're screaming into the void and hearing nothing come back. Ashley's mom didn't just stop with the phone calls. On June 9th, 2017, she sent an email directly to the Omaha Tribal Council. And what she described in that email is something that's hard to even read. She detailed an incident that had happened 6 days earlier on June 3rd. She said she went to the apartment that Ashley shared with her boyfriend. When she got there, she found her daughter standing in the shower, fully clothed, covered in blood. The couch was soaked with blood. There were splatters on the wall, on the mattress. This wasn't something subtle or small. It's not something you can explain away or chalk up to a misunderstanding. This was a crime scene inside her daughter's home.
That's insane.
Yes, and this is the one that they did act on.
I mean, I don't know how you couldn't. One, I didn't even realize you could write to the tribal council. I bet that makes sense
Mhm.
to
I wonder if
plea
you
for that help because, again, that's a different.
and you feel like it's probably more documented as opposed to a call that they can.
That and I mean, I think that's more inside, like, it's not
Right,
police,
right.
it's elders, and that's a whole different entity.
You have no idea how hard I tried to find his name. And I saw
I'm
on.
shocked that it hasn't leaked anywhere.
Mhm.
And I'm not talking about law enforcement, I'm talking about just people talking on social media.
Right.
Does he have the kids? Just now? I have to ask that right now.
I am not sure.
Okay, we can get to that.
Yeah.
That thought popped in my head and I decided I couldn't wait for an answer.
Yeah. So when the tribal council did act on the letter from her mom, the boyfriend was charged with domestic disturbance and 2 counts of endangering the welfare of a child.
Oh, okay.
Because Ashley's 2 little boys were in that home, living in that environment, which if you
Yeah.
have that on your record, it would be hard for me to think that he had full custody, but
Oh,
also,
no, it doesn't.
I know,
Especially when it's
that's why I can't
one
give you an
incident.
answer. Yep. And it was 3 years before.
Yeah.
So now here's the thing about the justice system on many reservations, which comes up again and again in the cases we cover. These tribal courts are so limited in what they can do. Their sentencing power is severely restricted, like maxing out at a year for most things that happen and 3 years for the highest offenses. And they can stack them, but you're still maxed out at, I want to say, a 9-year max that they can actually sentence someone to.
That
Mhm.
doesn't seem right. I don't know why Okay, how do they get those laws changed?
It costs millions of dollars. Yes, that they don't have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went down that rabbit hole too. Their sentencing power is so restricted
Mhm.
and the resources are thin. When it comes to major crimes, we know jurisdiction often falls to the federal government, to the FBI. So even when tribal courts try to intervene, there's still a ceiling on how far that intervention can go.
Okay, I've never ever heard of the FBI investigating domestic violence. That's not something I would even think about. I mean, minus kidnapping, which is a whole category unto itself.
Mm.
I never have heard of them investigating domestic violence. So again, yet another way this community is being shortchanged because your tribal police are limited, or the tribal council, which sounds like it's your court system, is limited, yet it goes to the FBI, but the FBI doesn't investigate domestic violence.
So, what I found was it depends on how severe they rate the domestic violence. So, if it's somebody who is also native and they call it lesser abuse, then it is tribal police. If they count it as major crime, then the FBI can step in now, which is a
So
more
with
recent change.
blood all over the house, does that count as major or lesser?
I don't know. I
Sorry,
don't
there wasn't enough blood drawn.
exactly. So we're just going to leave it and good luck, I guess.
I still, that's shocking. I've never heard of the FBI investigating domestic violence.
So it's under the Major Crimes Act. If the abuse escalates to a major felony, like an assault resulting in serious bodily injury, strangulation, sexual assault, or homicide, the federal government assumes concurrent jurisdiction.
Seems like this would fit the case.
Uh-huh. Agreed. And so that's the Violence Against Women's Act, VAWA. The reauthorizations from that are what changed where the FBI can step in or not.
Okay.
And then, of course, every state is different.
Oh, of course.
Of course. So Nebraska's status is Public Law 280, which adds this immense layer of systemic friction to local reservation law enforcement. That one was passed like in 1953, quite a while ago. It forced 6 states, including Nebraska, to assume complete criminal jurisdiction over tribal lands, which pushed out the federal government, like the FBI, completely off the reservation. And then since then, they've been trying to backtrack. So the Omaha Nation Indian Reservation has successfully retroceded major qualifying offenses. So that is what gives federal authorities like the FBI the ability to handle major crimes on reservation.
Okay.
But a lot of other places that haven't been able to get it back to before that law 280
Mm-hmm.
are still without the FBI stepping in almost ever.
Wow.
Yeah. So under the Indian Civil Rights Act, which is ICRA, the default maximum penalty that a tribal court can impose for any single criminal offense is 1 year in prison, a $5,000 fine, or both. If a repeat domestic abuser commits multiple offenses, the court can stack the sentences, but there's still caps on what they're allowed to do. It's all so different in like every case we do.
Yeah.
It's just so frustrating. All right, back to the boyfriend. What happened with those charges? They didn't stop anything. I can't find exactly what sentence he was given, but it seems very minor. And the cycle continued. And Ashley stayed in that relationship, which, and I say this with absolutely no judgment, is something that anyone who understands domestic violence knows is incredibly common. We know that leaving is the most dangerous time. The barriers are enormous, especially in this small, isolated community on a reservation where there aren't resources like shelters and counseling is scarce, sometimes non existent. It probably felt like an impossible situation, especially when you have these two boys.
Yeah.
So the calls kept coming. Tilly and Galen kept biting, and the system kept doing what it had always done, nothing. Galen would later say something that I think sums up everything about this part of the story. He said that the court systems and our law enforcement never protected his daughter. And he's right. The paper trail is there, the evidence was there. The family did everything they could do, everything they were supposed to do. They reported it, they documented it, they escalated where they reported it to. They followed every rule, and none of it mattered. Tilly also has said that she remembered Ashley herself felt like she had no support from law enforcement while trying to protect herself. It wasn't just the family seeing the system fail, Ashley felt it too. Let's move to January 2020. At this point, Ashley's been missing for several days, and her family's looking for her. There's some discrepancy about what date exactly they stopped being able to communicate with her, and I couldn't find anything about her cell phone. So I'm not sure if it was just ringing, 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 or what happened. But you have to remember this is a small reservation. Macy is a tiny town. So when someone is missing, people notice, they
Yeah.
talk. On January 6th, so this is when they already knew that Ashley was missing, Tilly gets a text from her other daughter, Alyssa, and the text stops her cold. She says that someone told her they had seen Ashley in the passenger seat of her boyfriend's SUV, and it looked like she'd been beat up. Think about what that does to a mother. You already know your daughter's been missing. You already know the history. You've been the one making dozens of calls, writing emails, finding her in her apartment covered in blood. And now someone's telling you that she's been beaten and is in her boyfriend's car. That evening, Tilly says she stopped her car. She took out some sage out of the glove compartment, burned it, and said a prayer for her daughter. She asked God to watch over Ashley and keep her safe. The next day, January 7th, Galen was out doing tribal home maintenance work when something caught his eye: the boyfriend's SUV. It was parked in the middle of a cornfield just south of town, near Main Street and Blackbird Creek. It was just sitting there. Galen walked over. He looked inside the vehicle. He walked around it. He saw tracks in the ground. He told the Sioux City Journal what he had seen. He said, quote, "I could see her tracks where she got out. I could see that she kind of went around to the front of the truck. I could see his tracks, but I really couldn't tell which way they went." And then he said something that just sits with you. He said, "Then I had that feeling. I knew something was wrong." So 2 sets of tracks, hers and his, both of them had been at that SUV. Later that day, Alyssa went out to the field. She pulled her car off the road and drove into the field as far as she could until it got stuck in the mud. So she got out and she kept going on foot. She also checked in and around the SUV, looking for any signs of Ashley. And then she says something made her turn toward the creek. Maybe instinct, maybe she noticed something in the distance, but she turned and started walking towards the tree line. As she got closer, she saw it, her sister's black hair blowing in the wind. Ashley was lying face down in the mud, completely still. She wasn't wearing anything, no clothes, no shoes, no socks, nothing. Less than a quarter of a mile from the home she shared with her boyfriend.
And the car was just sitting there? I'm just kind of like, the fact that you can tell someone's beat up from a car, that means she was bruised. Like, to be
Yes.
able to see into a vehicle and see all that, that
Mhm.
means it had to be bad.
Devastating, because I'm sure they were thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Alyssa went over to her sister. She tried to hold Ashley. It was clear to Alyssa that she'd been there for some time. So Ashley took her coat off. She laid it over Ashley's body and screamed for help. Members of the Aldrich family started arriving at the scene. One by one, police officers really had to physically hold them back. They wanted to keep them from getting close to Ashlea. Tilly later said that there was mud covering Ashlea's back all the way down to her calves.
Like somebody walked on her or somebody was trying to cover her up?
She said it looked like it had been purposefully placed on
Yeah.
her, like someone was trying to
Cover
cover
her
her
up.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah. She said specifically it didn't look like it was from lying in the field. And, she was
Well,
face
yeah,
down
on
and
the
it was on her
back.
back.
Yeah.
Within hours, Tilly posted on social media, which is devastating. She wrote, "He beat my daughter and left her in a field, dead." And she wasn't guessing, she wasn't speculating. In her mind, there was no mystery about what happened to Ashlea. The next day, Alyssa posted her own Facebook message. She described finding her sister's body near the creek. She wrote, "My heart is broken for her beautiful baby boys. She loved them and would do anything for them. I want justice for Ashlea." The Omaha Tribe shut down most of its operations that day.
In honor of Ashlea? Okay.
Yep. The Nebraska Indian Community College closed. The community was shattered. The tribe's official statement read, quote, "Today we're filled with grief as a community. When our community hurts, we all hurt. May Wakanda give strength in this time of sorrow and sadness." End quote. Women on the reservation held a candlelit vigil that same night, and then they had another one the next day, and then another at the Lincoln Indian Center that Saturday. Alyssa set up a GoFundMe for the family and Ashlea's 2 boys. The community was grieving and they were angry. They were doing what communities do when the system won't. They were showing up for each other. It sounds like everyone in that community knew what this was. Everyone. But here's where the story takes a turn that is genuinely hard to understand. The FBI comes in. That's standard. Reservations, major crimes fall under federal jurisdiction. That's supposed to be the trade-off. Tribal courts have limited authority, but the federal government steps in for the serious stuff. I mean, that's the deal. That's the trust responsibility. An FBI spokeswoman confirmed they were on it. She said, "Our team is on site. We're aware of the situation." Okay, good. That's what you want to hear. The professionals are here. The investigation is underway. But this is not an investigation. We know that Galen had been out at that SUV earlier in the day before Alyssa found Ashlea, and he had told the Sioux City Journal what he saw in the field, the 2 sets of tracks. Both of them had been in that vehicle. And, now the vehicle is just abandoned, sitting in the middle
Well,
of
so
a
I'm like, why would
cornfield.
he leave the car there?
I don't understand. And it seems like it was really close to where they lived.
Yeah. Okay, if it's close to where they live, I wonder if he went running home to clean up
That's
and
possible.
left the car because he was more concerned about his appearance. Still weird, but I mean, again, but then you're not contaminating your car.
True. I do wonder if he got stuck in the mud too. Like Alyssa was
Yeah.
trying to drive out there and got stuck
Yeah.
and had to get out and walk.
Yeah.
He could have gotten stuck and made her get out
True.
and then decided it wasn't worth it to spend time trying to get it out right then.
Yeah, not if he's covered in blood.
Exactly.
He's going home to clean up
Yes.
or somewhere to clean up.
Somewhere without, like you said, getting it in the car, which they can obviously.
Which, again, if the car is already stuck, that makes sense too. He may have already known that the car was a dead end for him.
Right. Which is
Get away.
maybe why he left it.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was probably trying to drive closer to where he left her, actually.
That too.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Because she could have already, like, maybe when the person saw that she was beat up, I wonder if she was already dead in the car.
That's possible.
Although, well, yeah, they'd have to have released details about if they even searched the car or impounded the car for evidence.
I
But
did
again,
not
if
see that anywhere.
Well, again, if they're just going to say it was
Accident.
hypothermia, she died due to the elements, they would have no reason to keep the car.
Yes. Which, how can you say that without investigating?
No, and there's too many suspicious things. Like, why is the car abandoned there? If I don't know. They were seen together.
Yep.
They see tracks. Something seems odd. Something seems fishy.
Agreed.
History of violence.
Huge,
I don't know,
long
let's care a little
history
bit.
documented
Yeah.
over and over and over.
Yeah.
Feels like it should be part of it.
One would think.
Yeah. Now, the FBI agent told the family that there were no observable abrasions on Ashley, and also specifically that there was no mud or soil on her feet. So, how did she get there?
Yeah, that means she didn't walk herself.
Of course, no mud on her feet in
I'm not an
January.
FBI agent, and I couldn't even say that.
Right. And they found no clothes, no shoes, no socks in the area. So it's not like she walked over there with shoes and then took them off and laid
Right,
down.
right.
So how did she get there?
But how'd she get mud on her back?
Exactly.
What, she, like, laid on one side and then flipped all of a sudden?
Right. That's not gonna
Come on.
not no. No. You would also think there would be cuts or abrasions from walking in that field barefoot if
Yeah,
you walked all the way over there.
barefoot? Yeah, there'd be something.
You would
But
think
minimally mud. Like, maybe
minimally
you're
mud.
not cut up or anything, but if vehicles are
So
getting stuck out there in mud, you're gonna have mud on you.
absolutely. Especially if you have it on the rest of your body and you want to say that you got it there because it's muddy.
So weird.
It makes no sense. And to anybody else, it raises the question of whether she was carried there or placed there. I don't see a third option, really. It gets worse when Galen went to the funeral home to see his daughter's body. And I can't even imagine what that must have felt like for her father. He said she had a black eye, her nose was swollen, and there were little welts all over her body.
Oh, like little stab wounds?
It just says welts, so
Okay.
I'm not sure if that's like
Because I don't know why I'm feeling like
something.
she was strangled, which again, usually can tell because the hyoid bone is
Mhm.
broken. There's peteking in the eyes.
Yep. And they didn't document any strangulation. So I don't know if severely beat up and then left there. I'm not exactly sure on that one.
I'm just thinking when there's nothing visible, that's why I always think strangulation. I mean, even
Mhm.
though you would generally see bruising around the neck too.
Which it's not documented, but
Yeah.
could seem like they just missed it, which is why I tried to find who did the autopsy. I wanted to see if it was someone that had experience or was just voted in. They wouldn't
Oh,
release
like
the
a
name.
coroner.
Mhm.
Of the person who did the autopsy?
Yeah.
I mean, I assume it would be the FBI.
It was someone who works for the FBI,
Yeah,
but I mean, it was supposed to be, but that they
because
won't
they're
release it.
investigating.
Exactly. It appears like the FBI saw none of this because remember, he also said he saw no abrasions on Ashley, the agent that talked to her family. And it was very obvious to her family that there were abrasions, just not on her feet. And maybe that's all he meant, but I don't know. So, did the FBI see any of this, or did they see it and decided it didn't matter? Tilly didn't hold back about what she thought of the investigation. She said the FBI agent who looked into Ashley's death was, quote, negligent and clearly wanted a quick closed case. And honestly, when you look at that timeline, it is hard to argue with her. Then the death certificate came back. And what's written on that document is something that still makes Ashley's family sick to this day. The official cause of death, hypothermia, complicating acute alcohol toxicity, manner of death, accident. And the narrative, the actual written explanation, says she was, quote, found deceased after she wandered off.
So, how do they know she wandered off? And are they saying that there was alcohol found in her system?
The official story that they're saying is she got drunk, wandered into a field, and froze to death. Case closed.
Oh, okay. That
Mm,
doesn't make any sense.
no. And I couldn't find the toxicology, what they did.
I mean, if there's an autopsy, there's automatically toxicology.
I don't know that it's ever been released. But again, if there's not a case, why wouldn't you release it?
Yeah, this seems very quick
Very quick.
for what began as an unexplained death.
Mm, yeah.
Because tox screens take 30 days to come back. I mean, again, FBI, you would think have more resources, so maybe sooner, but even, I mean, up to 60 days for a medical examiner's report.
Mhm. And I can't find when they got that cause of death and
Yeah.
her death certificate, if it was 60 days or
It just seems odd that they would just automatically go to accidental and not at
instead of
least be
undetermined,
undetermined. Like, at least let it be undetermined so investigation can happen.
unless you just wanna close the case and
Yeah.
call it a day.
That's I so weird.
I
Like, what wandered off, but from where? How do
from
you know
there.
that? Who did you talk to the family? Did you talk to the boyfriend?
Right.
Like, any of that? Like, how do you know she just wandered off?
That's what I can't figure out. Where did that come from? What
No, that to me, that's coming from somebody who had, I don't know, we were here, and then there's like, then we were here, and then she disappeared, and then she was found in a field.
Mhm.
But there's none of that.
No. None from her
And
family,
like,
from friends,
obviously,
from
the family never got a hold of her phone.
and I couldn't find anything about a phone.
I mean, and really, if she's living with, I'm sure the boyfriend was probably not being helpful.
I highly doubt it.
I don't understand how this is accidental and not undetermined
I don't understand either.
so that it can be investigated.
Right. There's so many reasons to at least investigate it
Yeah.
before disclosing it. 3 days after her body was found, on January 10th, 2020, a background inquiry was filed in Omaha Tribal Court. Her boyfriend was charged with criminal homicide.
Okay.
He was charged with criminal contempt and also charged with duty to give information and render aid. If we pause on that last charge for a second, duty to give information and render aid, that charge means that someone believed he knew what happened, that he had information he wasn't sharing,
I mean, I take that as he disclosed enough that they're now saying you did not try to help save her.
or going off of the long history.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly it. He was in a position to help her and didn't. And when you put that along with the two sets of tracks that you could see leading away from the SUV, it does not look like a woman just wandered off on her own.
Right.
The boyfriend was arrested. He was held at the tribe's detention center in Macy. And for a brief moment, I think the Aldrich family thought the system was finally going to work. After years of calls, years of reports, and now losing their daughter, maybe this time someone was going to be held accountable. But then April came. He was released. No federal charges. The FBI had officially made their ruling accidental. And like we know, because of how jurisdiction works on tribal reservations, tribal courts can only sentence someone to a maximum of 3 years, even for a homicide. And usually, major crimes have to be prosecuted by the U.S. Attorney's Office. The tribal charges couldn't go anywhere without federal backing. So once the FBI closed the book, the case effectively hit a wall. The boyfriend walked free, and he's never been charged federally in connection with Ashley's death. And here's maybe the most infuriating part. When the Sioux City Journal asked the U.S. Attorney's Office about the case, and they asked 9 months after Ashley was found, the assistant U.S. attorney, Michael Norris, said he couldn't comment on specific cases. But then he said something that I think everyone listening needs to hear. He said his office is confident that homicides occurring on Nebraska reservations have all been fully investigated and prosecuted, and that they are, quote, not aware of any homicides that were not investigated or not prosecuted.
So he's calling one homicides, plural,
Mhm.
but he's also calling it a homicide.
Yeah, but it's not because
But
he
it's
fully
not.
investigated and prosecuted every single one that's ever happened.
Yeah, but
There were 2 others that same year that don't appear to have conclusion either.
oh,
Mhm.
any connection to this man, this boyfriend?
Not that I see.
Okay.
I think this one was purely,
A one-off because it's
well,
domestic. It's
not a one-off,
I mean,
but
but domestic. Like,
Right.
the chances of it being domestic are very high.
Yes, exactly. I just not aware of any. Like, he
But it's
has no
interesting
clue.
that, again, it's ruled accidental. You get asked about it. You can't comment on specific cases, but homicides are blah, blah, blah. Like,
Yeah, you're
not, that's really
clearly
not,
connecting the dots.
yes. Like,
Exactly.
that's actually not what I asked, but thanks.
Yeah.
You should have stopped at, I can't comment on specific cases.
Yeah. That would have been a better
'Cause the rest of it just makes you question what you're actually saying. Like, okay, if I read between the lines, I'm hearing something else.
100%. And I mean, tell that to her parents or her sister. Tell that to the community who shut down for the day because they knew exactly what happened. That the U.S. Attorney's Office, though, is confident everything's been handled. Ashley's family is confident their daughter was murdered. Someone is wrong, and I know who I believe. When reporters tried to dig deeper, every door closed. KMTV reached out to the FBI for an interview, denied. The FBI sent back a statement, a written statement, not even a conversation, saying they investigate cases in tandem with the Omaha Tribal Police and had spoken directly to Ashlea Aldrich's family with respect to the outcome of our investigation. When KMTV called the head of the Omaha Nation Law Enforcement Agency, the tribal police, they were told simply, we do not speak to the media. So, no press conferences, no press releases, no public updates, no transparency whatsoever, and two agencies pointing at each other from behind closed doors. And I think that silence is one of the most damning parts of this entire story because we've all seen what happens when the system decides that a case matters. We've seen the press conferences, the search parties with media ride alongs, the breaking news banners, the FBI updates at podiums with flags behind them. We've seen what that looks like, and Ashlea Aldrich didn't get any of that. So, what do you do when the system fails you at every single level? When you've spent years making the calls, writing the emails, doing everything right, and your daughter still ends up dead in a field, and the people responsible for finding out what happened just close the file? Some people would break, and honestly, nobody would blame them. But Galen Aldrich did something else. He got louder. In the months following Ashley's death, both of her parents became vocal advocates for justice, and not just for their daughter, but for every Indigenous woman on that reservation and beyond. Galen started showing up at every hearing, every event, every forum where somebody might listen. And eventually, he didn't just show up to those rooms, he got a seat at the table. He became a member of the Omaha Tribal Council. Think about what that means for a second. This is a father who watched the system fail his daughter over and over again, who was told by the FBI that her death was just an accident. And instead of walking away, he walked into the very system that failed her and said, you know what? I'm going to fix this from the inside.
Yeah, Sam, like, did that work? Was he able to do anything?
I mean, once the case is
I mean,
closed,
other than probably at least
helping future
yeah,
cases.
say doing things for the future.
As recently as January of 2025, so 5 years after Ashley was found, Galen was standing at a podium at an MMIR event, which is Missing and Murdered Indigenous Relatives, speaking alongside other tribal leaders and advocates. And he said something that stops you in your tracks. He said, I and my wife are living this nightmare every day. There are so many unanswered questions that we need closure for. And Tilly is right there with them. She said publicly that she can't bear any of her tribal members going through what she went through. That's her driving force now. Not just Ashley, but like we said, making sure the next family doesn't get the same treatment, the same silence, the same shrug from the people who were supposed to help. Ashley's story made it beyond the reservation in June of 2020, so 5 months after she was found. A Native American ally named April Satchel brought Ashley's case to a congressional hearing. She said, right now, our lives don't matter. A non Native man can rape us, murder us, and as long as we don't know who that person is, The law right now does not protect us, which is not an exaggeration. That's the reality of how jurisdiction works in Indian country. Tribal courts can't prosecute non-native offenders for major crimes. The federal government can, but as we've seen in Ashley's case, sometimes they just don't. And what you're left with is this gap, this void where justice is supposed to be. And women like Ashley fall right through it. In 2021, the Sioux City Journal published a 3-part investigative series called Stolen Lives that centered partly on Ashley's case. The reporters spent over a year on this project examining the epidemic of missing and murdered Indigenous women in the Siouxland region. That's the corridor running through South Dakota, Nebraska, and Iowa. One of the things that came out of that reporting is just how common Ashley's story is. Not the specific details, although that's obviously not unheard of, but the pattern, the domestic violence that gets reported and ignored over and over again, and the deaths that get ruled accidental when the evidence says otherwise. The families that get shut out of the investigation into their own loved one's death. Galen has pointed to this. He said that the South Dakota, Nebraska, and Iowa corridor is a hotspot for missing and murdered Indigenous people. Cases that, in his words, never get resolved. And he's pushing for more government resources, more state funding, and more accountability from federal agencies that are supposed to be protecting tribal citizens. And here's the thing that makes all this even more painful. While they're being told that her death was an accident and her case is closed, it isn't technically closed. It's listed as open, but open doesn't mean active. Open doesn't mean someone is working leads or re-examining evidence or following up on the physical injuries that her father documented. Open, in a lot of cases, just means that nobody has officially admitted that they're done looking. So, where does that leave us? After the funeral in Macy, Galen did something that I think is one of the most beautiful and heartbreaking things I've come across in any case I've covered. In keeping with Omaha tribal tradition, he bundled Ashley's clothes into a gray star quilt. He took it out to the old Cook homestead, which is north of town. He said a prayer, and he hung it in a tree. He explained it this way. He said, quote, "We keep her for 4 days, and then we send her off to heaven. If we cry too much or keep some of her photographs and clothes, that might stop her from going, and her spirit will just wander around here." End quote.
That's so beautiful.
It is beautiful. It makes me get emotional.
Yeah.
It'd be so hard. Think about that. A father who just buried his daughter, who knows in his bones that she was murdered, who watched the system fail. His concern right now is making sure her spirit can rest, making sure she can go in peace. Even in the worst moment of his life, he's still working to take care of her. Inside the Aldrich home, the framed inspirational quotes still decorated the walls, but the photographs of Ashley were taken down. Her clothes were gone, sent off in that quilt. The house was quieter. The 2 little boys were growing up without their mom. At the candlelit vigil that we mentioned at the Lincoln Indian Center on January 11th, nearly a dozen women and men stood up and shared their own stories of domestic violence and abuse. Red dresses hung above the circle of people gathered there. There were 7 red wooden figures of women with feathers in their hair rested on a table nearby. A woman named Natalie shared her story of being sexually assaulted by somebody she thought was a friend. And she said something that cuts right to the heart of why Ashley's case went the way it did. She said, "When we do turn for help, nobody believes us." Ashley's death didn't just take a mother from her children, it cracked something open in that community. It gave people permission to speak. It gave people the courage to say, "This happened to me too," and that matters. That ripple matters. About 3 weeks after Ashley was buried, her 17-year-old niece decided she wasn't done honoring her aunt. She's a member of the Winnebago tribe and was on the cheerleading team at Walt Hill Public School, which is the same school Ashley had attended for a few years growing up. So her niece organized her squad to pay tribute at a basketball game. They made posters of Ashlea with her family. They painted red handprints over their mouths, which is the symbol of the MMIW movement. And at halftime, they walked onto the court, stood on opposite sides of the gym, and formed an A in the middle. They held a moment of silence, and then they walked over to Ashlea's parents and presented photos to them, along with a blanket, a beaded necklace, and beaded earrings. Now, incredibly, the school had told them not to do it. Her niece had asked permission, and the answer came back no. But they did it anyways. And when asked about the consequences, the 17-year-old girl said something that I will carry with me. She said, "My aunt means more to me than a cheer uniform and pom-poms ever will. We did what we did with good intentions and no regrets. I'll save my cheer energy for the day my aunt gets justice for her life being stolen from her."
And as a former cheerleader, I support that.
Me too. Every January since, the Macy community has come back together. They held a memorial at the Walt Hill Fire Hall on the first anniversary, and again on the second, third, fourth, 5 years, now 6 years later, because the community refuses to let Ashlea become a closed file that nobody talks about. Ashlea was 29 years old. She was a member of the Omaha Tribe of Nebraska. She knew she was in danger. She told people, her family told people, they did everything they were supposed to do. The system, the tribal police, the courts, the FBI, the U.S. Attorney's Office, every single layer of it let her down. This case is still listed as open. If you have any information, anything at all about what happened to Ashlea Aldrich on or before January 7th, 2020, on the Omaha Reservation near Macy, Nebraska, please call the FBI's Omaha Field Office at 402-493-8688, and we'll list that in the show notes. Her family has been waiting for over 6 years. 6 years of January memorials, 6 years of unanswered questions, and a death certificate that says their daughter wandered off and froze. When everything, every bruise, every track in that field, every phone call they ever made says otherwise. Ashlea deserved better, and her name still matters.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Vanished Voices. We're grateful you've chosen to spend your time with us as we bring attention to these stories that too often go unheard. If you'd like to learn more about the resources and sources we used in today's episode, visit our blog linked through our website at vanishedvoicespodcast.com. Be sure to connect with us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Just search for @VanishedVoicesPod. We'd love to hear your thoughts, feedback, and reflections, and to continue building this community with you. If you found value in today's episode, please take a moment to rate, review, and share the podcast. Your support not only helps us reach more listeners, but also helps amplify the voices of those who can no longer speak for themselves. You can find Vanished Voices on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, and all major streaming platforms. And as always, refuse to let these voices vanish.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.